A quick thank you to all of my patrons. Your support is heavily appreciated.
New year? Aw, shit. Here we go again. Hello, fellow Chaldean masters, and welcome to yet another video created by yours truly, once again. Now that it's soon going to be the new year, it's going to be 2020 soon, and as we all know, another year, another wave of brand new servants. And once again, just like last year, I'm here to give you my 10 recommendations of servants you should probably save for in 2020. I'm going to mostly just cut to the chase this time, but first of all, just like last year, here are the requirements for servants to make the list. First, they are mostly judged on gameplay. Sure, Fate Grand Order is a character collector game, but then you'd roll for them anyways. This list is purely for players who might want recommendations for good units on the game to save for. Second, servants are judged on difficulty to obtain foremost. Gameplay does matter a lot, however, a story-locked or limited servant will take higher priority over the non-story-locked servants, even if the latter units may be arguably better. Finally, no welfares, because you should always get them and NP5 them. No excuse, always. I will not tolerate any injustice. Finally, please remember that these are all subjective. They are opinion-based recommendations from me. They are not objective since, as I said before, every servant is unique and every unit can do things better than other ones depending on the situation. They're just what I think are overall the most worth considering. So in case you're a special snowflake and think a certain unit can do this amazing thing if you work your entire team around them, please remember this before you go on and flex that superior creativity that you have on everyone else. This isn't a notice board, it's advice, so treat it as such. Now for this video, I'll be cutting out honorable mentions since the amount of servants has decreased, but instead I'll be giving out a list of previous strong limited servants that are getting new rate-ups that you may want to consider when rolling. And so, here they are. Now with those out of the way, here's the list. Number 10. Foreigner. Mysterious Heroine XX. Are you a fan of Mysterious Heroine X but hated how Delightworks completely shit themselves when designing her until she got her buffs? Boom. Here. No issues anymore. XX is virtually nothing like her assassin self, and in a very good way. As one of the only current known foreigners in the game, and the only one of her rarity, she is both important and niche, while being overall strong to boot. She may seem generic, but that's also her strength. Effectiveness and simplicity. She isn't broken, and definitely, at a glance, her skills won't seem spectacular. But with a bit of creativity, her simple, strong buffs will allow her to be good at basic arts crit anti-Zerg beat sticking. And that's way more than the sum of its parts. Also, just like, look at that passive sheet. It's absolutely nuts. In terms of raw NP damage, she doesn't quite live up to Abby unless the enemy is a saber or a threat against humanity. God, that is the coolest classification, don't even try to argue otherwise. But if you missed Abby and or Hokusai, she's definitely worth considering since she's lower rarity, and you should always aim to have at least one unit of each class for those niche situations. She's straightforward and not particularly interesting, but strong and or important? Hell yeah, treat yourself. She's a limited servant for Summer 3 Banner 2, so if you want her, roll it like you want to win. Plus, she's a reference to Notes, one of the earliest Nasuverse works in both design and lore. Speaking of lore, in terms of it, she has potential to become one of the most powerful beings in the Nasuverse. Like, keep that in mind. Her Noble Phantasm is legitimately broken. Fuck gods in reality. She warps that shit. Number 9. Archer. Jeanne d'Arc. Summer Jeanne was quite a surprise hit for me in more ways than one. Specifically, she managed to target all of my turn-ons in a single servant. They took normal Jeanne, made her love sea creatures, with a second Ascension One Piece wearing glasses, while finally topping off with a big sister complex. Oh, Delightworks really did make her just for me, didn't they? However, while that's all great, I'm here to talk about her gameplay and what that gameplay is. So how do we begin? Consistent arts buffs with solid survivability on her first skill, solid NP charge and bonus damage buffs. One is situational since water, but not bad. And finally, a good alignment-based double charisma. These aren't broken skills by any stretch, but they really don't need to be. They're very solid as is, like her second passive. Seriously, that ain't bad. With those buffs and a 4-hit AoE arts NP, while she isn't going to be refunding on the same tier as Rider Mordred, it really won't be hard to make her NP spam again and again. Jeanne is really solid at having that consistent damage over time that arts teams all benefit from. She's just a really solid AoE arts archer, and if you like Jeanne or like archers, she's a very solid pick to have. And if you want her, you'll only be able to get her during Summer 3 Banner 1. So definitely consider her and look out. Number 8. Alter Ego, Sitonai. So, Illya comes once again in the form of a pseudo-servant, this time being the single target arts alter ego that everyone inevitably relies on when they seek the niche. Sitonai is weird to recommend, but at the same time, it's undeniable that she deserves the place on the list as an alter ego. Facing solid competition with the Welfare Mecha Ellies and Melt for single target egos, Sitonai was our arts one. She's hard to recommend outside of an arts team because her skills, while really good, are all very basic and simple. And damage-wise, she really isn't spectacular on her own. But remember, she's an arts servant. In a team, she excels with skills that allow her to do decent damage while constantly keeping her alive. Pretty much an all-rounder, with solid offense, defense, and a bit of RNG-based utility. While that's going on, her teammates will provide her with spamming NP gain because of her arts team, and healing from the typical art supports, e.g. Tamamo. With that on an alter ego class, she's very versatile with her offerings, able to act as solid single target arts DPS in many fights. Should you choose to aim for her, she is story locked to after you complete Lostbelt 2, but also does not get implemented until Oniland. Oniland is ultimately the best time to get her because of rate up, but otherwise she does get other chances in case you missed that. So, if in case you don't roll her during Oniland, you will have the occasional possibility of rolling her. But still, just be careful. Number 7. Alter Ego, Okita Souji, Alter. Man, if Sitonai was hard to recommend properly, Alter is going to be even harder to justify my reasoning for her placement. But I'll do my best to explain myself. Majin-san is a special servant in that her strength is completely in her basic cards, stats, and hit counts, rather than her skills. Her skills are ultimately pretty okay, but they're also very weird. They're the case of having two different effects that don't pair particularly well, often meaning that you pick one of the effects to be used and thus wasting the other. While that is the case, however, they aren't as bad as you think. Second skill, for instance, could use the Starway to increase NP gain during a Brave Chain or for more damage after a charge. It's not terrible, but I can see people being annoyed at them. Again though, her real merit is her cards. Her quick card generates a lot of stars, while actually gaining a surprising amount of NP due to hit count. With an AQQ chain, she can generate a surprising amount of stars and NP for starting with an arts card. And in general, a lot of her chains work really well due to her hit count and solid stat spread. With her, you get a very consistent unit that can generate stars, gain NP, and do solid damage while at the same time inside the alter ego class. Not to mention her NP is pretty great too. For a beginner, I say she's an excellent unit, and from experience, has fought very well for me on most of my fights. I am biased to Majin-san as a character, but trust me when I say that in action, she's surprisingly good from her cards alone and worth trying to roll for. If you do want her, note that she's only available during the Guda Guda 3 banners, and I'll wish you good luck if you also want to aim for the Innocent Keeper of Balance. Although I'll also warn you that you'll probably want her regardless after her event. She's just so absolutely precious. Number 6. Moon Cancer, Summer BB. Summer BB was a surprise virtually nobody saw coming, but when she came out, she was more interesting than any of us thought she would be. I mean, her class says enough. Moon Cancer is niche as hell since Avengers aren't a common enemy, especially in a group. But of course we'd still get an AoE one eventually just to fill that role. Now most of you might be wondering, why isn't she number 3 or higher? And that's because while Summer BB is definitely unique, I don't think she's as broken as people claim. And the big reason to that is her class. Sure, against an Avenger, she'll kick ass, but against any normal enemy, she isn't going to be doing that much damage unless she's critting with her first skill. However, her second skill is completely loaded with buffs that do an ass ton of shit, including making her NP not completely terrible, because honestly it is thanks to her class. And with that, she's pretty okay as is. But we all know that her main appeal is that she can stop your card shuffling for 3 turns, which is the only time you'll ever be able to get something like this in your game. It opens a huge amount of potential, and with the right team members can allow you to do some crazy shit. While saying that though, with the actual usage as well as the RNG that you'll need to pull off said crazy things, it ultimately ends up more of a novelty rather than a thing that's actually reliable and useful on its own. If you've got plenty of good servants and want to experiment and meme, by all means, prioritize BB first. But if you're a beginner, don't consider BB to be an ultimate win button. She's best for players that already have a very solid setup for most situations and want to experiment with their game. Not a key to making said solid setups on her own in the first place. While saying that, she's still excellent, and if you want her, you can roll her during the 2 Summer 3 banners. Number 5. Rider, Ivan the Terrible. So, the first of the Lostbelt Kings is on this list, and trust me, not the last. Ivan's a very interesting case in that while he isn't special or particularly unique, he's arguably one of the best servants in his class with extremely strong skills. And while you can argue that Achilles is better for farming because of the quick meta, he's a spook, while Ivan is limited. So Ivan wins because of Rule 2. Ivan is a strong AoE buster rider with insane skills. And as a rider, he is a fantastic offense as usual due to the crit star weight. And helping that is his second skill with a passive star gen and an insane 40% buster buff for 3 out of 5 turns. Is it just me, or is that really goddamn strong? But no, we go further because he has one of the best self-buff NP gain skills in the game that removes all of his debuffs as well. And oh boy, is that an invincibility that removes all of the enemy party's buffs? All of them. Yeah, you can see why he's good. His NP damage doesn't have an interlude yet, but as is, he's really solid, dealing great amounts of damage, having good skills all around, and just, he's a really good buster rider with no weaknesses. What can I say? Strength and simplicity. He is a fantastic choice and only available during the Anastasia Banner 2 and Windfest summoning campaigns. So, if you're in need of a rider, I wish you good luck for the Elephant Poppy. Number 4. Foreigner, Katsushika Hokusai. Well, let's hope you saved your quartz, cause unfortunately this one's coming really soon. So, right off the tips of the release of Abigail, we get a brand new Foreigner class servant again. Also a 5-star, and from a gameplay standpoint, pretty much overall a better unit. It's almost like they're trying to make us wail. While Hokusai is an AoE arts foreigner instead of a single target arts foreigner like Abby, the general consensus is that she's overall better due to her skills having more consistency and actually having reasonable cooldowns with a better deck. She has solid defense, as well as better NP gain, which is a huge advantage as an arts servant. She's just way more consistent with her attacks, and while Abby is good, Hokusai is pretty much the reason she didn't make the list the last time. With just over a month in release dates, it's just overall a better option if you go for Hokusai instead for your 5-star foreigner. Passives are amazing, skills are also amazing, NP underwhelming but pretty solid in combination with her skills and overcharge. She's definitely a really good servant. Heck, while she's a neutral class, she actually holds her own pretty solidly with pure neutral damage due to said skills. If that's something to be said, then yeah, Hokusai's really, really good. Plus, she's adorable, so why not? If you want her, she'll be available during the New Year's gachas. So, well, I hope you saved some quartz from Abby. Number 3. Archer. Asagami Fujino. Wait a moment. Just hold on. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Manpig, Fujino is really good, but is she really better than all of those 5 stars you mentioned before? Are you that biased to your waifu? Yes. Okay, but for real, she's up here for good reason. And that's because of this. 1-year rate up. Ever. No other known rate ups from now on in JP's known schedule. And it's been almost 2 years. Meaning, if you missed her on JP on that date or missed this rate up, this may be the final chance you will ever get to obtain Fujino. Ever. Of all time. What the fuck? Why? So because of that, rule 2. She's high on this list purely from her banner rarity rather than card rarity. But that's also not the only reason she's so high. While the Archer class is really strong and honestly, the standards are really high, Fujino still stands out a lot purely for one reason. Consistency. Her skills are really solid, not for their pure numbers, but for the fact that they are active for 3 turns each and all have a 5-turn cooldown. Her buster damage lasts long, her NP gain buff lasts long, sure hit lasts long, damage cut lasts long, and her guts on a 5-turn cooldown is really helpful in combination with her damage cut. She is very consistent in actually everything, and you must not underestimate that despite her low numbers on her skills. Her NP is actually the weakest part of her, but if you're crazy enough like me, higher NP levels will fix that. Basically, she's your best bet for consistent single target Buster Archer at the 4-star rarity, and is really solid. And again, ultra rare. The Karno Kyoukai rerun in February will literally be your only known chance for her. Men of culture, you better not fail me. Number 2. Caster. Scathach-Skadi. What? Yeah, I bet you thought she was going to be number 1 now, didn't you? See, and not to downplay Skadi at all, because let's be real, she deserves her reputation as one of the best caster supports in the game, but there are 2 reasons as to why she's number 1, and we'll get to those when we get to said number 1. In terms of herself though, quick users, wake up! Your savior has arrived! As the 2nd Lostbelt king, Skadi is quite literally game-changing. An absolute nuke in the current meta of NA whose existence changes 3-turn farming forever with certain units. And she makes quick servants do much more consistent damage, especially if they do their stars. So, what do we have? Strong damage buffs for quick, a targetable 50% NP charge, a hybrid defense and critical damage boosting NP. She's pretty much exactly what quick servants want. Of course, while she's specifically geared to working with quick units, she specifically works well with quick units that have high hit counts, as any servant does. Specifically, 5 hit counts on NP, or 3+ on regular quick cards. With the former, she can let most, if not all units 3-turn farm if you have one and another support Skadi, which can be super efficient. While with the latter, you can just let a quick DPS do big damage with their support skills, e.g. literally any quick servant that can generate crit stars. Yes, she was definitely a huge servant of contention on JP, and easily one you should roll for if you're for maximum efficiency on NA, since owning a copy lets you unlock a large tier of convenience if you have your worths of quick units. She's available in the 3rd anniversary download campaign, as well as NA's equivalent of her own download campaign, so look out for her. As for the last one on this list, number 1, Ruler, Qin Shi Huang. Yes, ultimately, after long consideration, even above Skadi, I've decided that the 1st Emperor, the 3rd and final Lostbelt King of the year, Qin Shi Huang, is the number 1 servant that you should aim to roll your quartz for this year. And I'm sure the question everyone here is asking is why them over Skadi. To that, I'll attempt to give you my reasoning. Skadi is game-changing, yes, but only as a support. To use her optimally, you must both have obtained and leveled at least one quick servant, ideally multiple for various situations and battles since class advantage does matter. Unless you're Dantes or Lancelot, but that's beside the point. Basically, you need to raise at least another servant, and you also need to rely on support. Similar to Summmer BB, this is a servant ideal for those who already have a sturdy basis with their lineup and can have fun with the game. But one of the purposes of this list is to help newer or struggling players who have little high rarity servants in their Chaldea, bad luck with little quartz, or whatever. From that perspective, I point all of you players to the ruler, Qin Shi Huang. First off, our Emperor is a ruler, arguably the best class in the game due to its minor damage modifier and resistance to basically 90% of the game. Sure, he'll only do double damage against berserkers and moon cancers, but it's still super versatile and useful in almost every situation. Second of all, his skills are amazing. Like bloody hell. Most of them do multiple things and they all do them really solidly. Combine all three of them and they are just fantastic. Like, have you seen that loaded ass third skill? Third, that Noble Phantasm seals the deal. Just look at it. Taunt and invincibility, which is already amazing, paired with a 50% attack buff for 3 turns and a 50% crit buff for, again, 3 turns, plus crit star absorption. What? That's right. Survivability, stalling, high HP, ruler class, and yes, his attack stat is low, but that's basically offset by the stupid amount of damage boosting buffs that this guy has. The one part that isn't self-sufficient about the Emperor is the fact that in order to access their massive crit damage, you need a star generator of some sort. But other than that, this Emperor is completely self-sufficient and very, very, very strong at virtually everything. They're a one-servant army. If you know what you're doing, they might be able to carry entire missions, and that's nuts. They fit a wide range of roles for many teams, and on their own, are not only arguably one of the most well-rounded and thus best rulers, but possibly one of the best lone servants in the entire game, including JP. Not to mention, they're only available one time, the very end of the year during the 3rd Lostbelt's 2nd banner. Unlike Skadi, they're only known to be available once instead of twice. Still, if you're an experienced player with multiple quick servants, yeah, go for Skadi instead. She's still number 2 for a reason. But if you aren't that, if you just want one rare, amazing servant to carry you, the Emperor Qin Shi Huang is that servant, as expected of the first Emperor of China. And that, my friends, is my 10 recommendations for servants for you to save for in 2020. Again, if you disagree, that's fine. Just be nice about it, please. If you're a JP player, share to us some of your recommendations and experiences with servants that you believe everyone should save for in the comments section. And if you aren't a JP player, share what servants you're looking forward to and what you expect of them. Either way, I hope you have a good year of rolls, and I hope that you too will continue to enjoy another year of Type Moon's Fate Grand Order. With that, this video is complete, and I bid you Chaldean Masters farewell once again. Have a blessed new year.